Good evening, parents. This is Mrs. P again with another video. Today we're going to talk about comparing and ordering, compare and order. And the big concept here is when we're looking at fractions, decimals, and percents and we want to compare and order them, we actually cannot do it without the thing we talked about yesterday, and that is converting. In order for us to look at fractions, decimals, and percents, we cannot say to ourselves or to anyone else, hey, I'm going to compare these and I'm going to order these unless they look alike. I can't say, hey, 65 is better than 3/5. Now, these are nice numbers, which the kids would call easy numbers. So they'll probably be able to look at it and go, I know what that is, I know what that is. But when they get more difficult, 1/3, 7/5, something, or 7/5, 2/5, things like that, they get harder and they have to be able to physically know what work they're going to do and how it's going to then tell them which one's biggest, which one's the smallest, which one in our case is greatest, which one is least, or which one is the least and which one is the greatest. And to do that, they have to know their converting process. So if I'm asking for someone and to say, hey students, please put this in order from least to greatest, L to greatest, G, I then have to know, how do I convert these things? You get to choose. Maybe I want to make them all look like fractions. Maybe I want to make them all look like decimals. Maybe I want to make them all look like percents. But I have to make a choice. I can't just, and I draw this on the board for the kids, I can't just look at it and go, I know which one's which. Now these ones are kind of easier, so the kids might be able to do this. And I went over this one today with the students. But usually if they're not ones that they know, they can look at them and then they have to realize, I've got to make those things look the same. Which means they've got to all be fractions, they've all got to be percents, or they've all got to be decimals in that order. And they have to use converting to do that. I tell students the easiest ones are usually decimals or percents. To turn them all into fraction gets difficult if they can't see a comparison with the fractions. But I'm going to show you all three ways and then wrap this up so that I can do another one for you tomorrow, but so that they can have a concept and a good understanding and confidence about how do I compare things in life through a little work. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to make them all fractions. Well, this is already 3/5. You have to know place value for decimals. And so I know that this is 65 hundredths. And I know this 58% is 58 out of 100. Now, what do I mean by they must look alike? Well, 5 doesn't look like 100, so it's very hard for me to compare those fractions. So I need them all to have the same denominator. Well, I can make 3/5 into 100 by multiplying it by 20, and then that's going to turn that into 60 hundredths. Now, through mathematics, not just looking at them, I can tell which one is the smallest, which one is the largest, or least to greatest. So, of course, least, this would be first, 1. 60 100ths would be second. 65 100ths would be third. But they have to know to put them back in this formation. So they have to know to write the first one is 58%. The second one is 3/5. The third one is 65 hundredths. Now this is using fractions. They can do the same with decimals or percents. I already know that this 3/5 is 60 100ths. So that's 60 hundredths as a decimal. This one is already 65 hundredths. And if this is 58 hundredths, there is 58 hundredths. Now, again, I can see which one is the smallest and which one is the largest. I could then turn it to percents. This was already 58%. This is 65 out of 100, 65%. 3/5 turned into 60 hundredths, which is 60%. And that is how students compare and order fractions, decimals, and percents. They must know their converting process, what to do with one to make it look like another. Because if you ask your own student, hey, do you like to be compared to your brother? I bet they're going to say no. So we don't want to do that in math. That's it for this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow night. Have a great evening.